Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. We are from group 2 with the first member is Kiarni Alfi Astika, student number 20. The second member is Poningsi, student number 21. And the third member is Sri Martuti Rahayu, student number 22. We will present about the novel titled Frankenstein. This video is to complete the first assignment. So Ayu will explain the first material.
Novel is an invented prose narrative of considerable length and a certain complexity that deals imaginatively with human experience, usually through a connected sequence of events involving a group of persons in a specific setting. Learn the element of the novel through the novel, with the title is Frankenstein. Below is the synopsis of Frankenstein. Frankenstein was born in Switzerland, and his parents loved each other. His mother was helping a family in which there were 4 children. His mother took one of the children to be his sister, named Elizabeth. One day, his mother became ill and his mother asked him to marry Elizabeth. When he was 17 years old, his parents decided to send Frankenstein to continue his education at the University of Illinois State. He also conducts experiments almost every day in the laboratory. He wanted to use electricity to help people, and Professor Waldman helped him very much. After 2 years, he had discovered many things, and he built a scientific machine that was better than anything in university. His machine would help her answer about the secret life. He tried to create living things from pieces of corpse cubed with complicated formula. He believed that he could use electricity to give life to things that were dead. He made a creature was tall, big, yellow skin that could barely had the muscle tissue and blood vessel underneath, long back hair thick as with grooves, wrinkled face, and straight lips back. After the creature was created, Frankenstein finally fell ill for a month. A few months later, his father informed him that his younger brother named William died because of being killed by Justin. But Frankenstein realized that it couldn't be Justin doing. He thought it was the monster doing. He thought the monster made it look like Justin was the killer. The monster also blew his anger at Frankenstein, who created it without giving happiness. Then the monster promised to Frankenstein that he won't disturb his life, but he wanted to be made one female monster to become his life partner and make him happy. When making a half-finished female monster, Frankenstein suddenly got confused. He thought with the presence of 2 monsters, then he stopped his work. Frankenstein went to London, used small boat to meet his best friend, Clerval, but he fell asleep and he woke up in a place he didn't know. He was even accused of being murderer, so he was thrown in prison. His father immediately came to see him while bringing him a lawyer. Then his father gave him the sad news coming from his best friend. Clerval was killed. He came back to Genoa with his father, and Frankenstein married with Elizabeth. After marriage, they went on vacation, but during the first night he enjoyed his vacations, Elizabeth was killed by a monster. By being strangled and hung a few months after Elizabeth's death, his father left because of illness. Frankenstein was furious. He decided to look for the monster everywhere. He managed to find it, but the monster was always able to escape and made him even angrier. During his search, he met a group of people with a leader named Robert Walton, who traveled to North Pole. Walton found Frankenstein thin, weak, and sick. Walton also invited him to sail along with him. On his way, Frankenstein told his story to Robert. On their way, they were caught in a terrible storm, which caused almost the entire crew was dead. Frankenstein was very ill and very weak at the time. He was unable to stand up from bed. It was at this crucial moment that he met with Monster. Walton also witnessed his second meeting and listened to his conversations. Before Frankenstein talked a lot, he died, and it was also at the time that the monster expressed its deep regret for hurting its creator at Walton, who was very frightened. Then quickly the monster jumps off the ship and was nowhere to be seen.
The next material is about intrinsic elements. The first is about plot. Plot is the sequence of events in a story. Each event causes or leads to the text. Plot is often created through conflict, a struggle between opposing forces. An external conflict is one between a character and an outside force such as another character, nature, society, or fate. An internal conflict takes place within the mind of a character who is torn between opposing feelings or between different courses of action. The story in Frankenstein novel is external conflict because there is a conflict between Frankenstein and another character, namely the monster. And the next is there are 6 stages of plot in the Frankenstein's novel. In the beginning there are exposition and conflict. In the middle there are rising action and the climax, and the end there are failing action and the resolution. The first is exposition. Frankenstein continued his education at the University of Ingolstadt, and he tried to create living things from pieces of corpses coupled with complicated formula. He believed that he could use electricity to give life to things that were dead. The second is conflict. Victor Frankenstein discovered the secrets of bringing life back to the dead. Because after he met a monster, he became afraid, and the monster always disturbed his life and his family. And the third is rising action. The monster wife wants to have happiness. He is always feared in society. So the monster wants to find Victor as a creature. And the fourth is climax. The monster asks Frankenstein to make a partner for him. Frankenstein tried to make it, but he broke his promise. After the monster kills his family members one by one, even Frankenstein's friends. And the fifth is failing action. Frankenstein followed the monster to the North Pole to kill him for revenge. In the way, he meets Captain Walton. He told all his life to Walton. On their way, they were caught in a terrible storm which caused almost the entire crew was dead. Frankenstein was very ill and very weak at that time. And the last is resolution. At this crucial moment, Frankenstein meets the monster. When he has not talked a lot, he dies due to an illness. And the next is settings. Setting is the time and place of the story action. And the setting in the Frankenstein novel are: the first is setting place. The setting place in Switzerland. Switzerland in Victor Frankenstein's home country, precisely in Geneva. And the second in Milan, Italy. Milan, Italy is Elizabeth's hometown before being appointed by Frankenstein's parents. And the next is University of Ingolstadt. It is a campus where Frankenstein studied in Germany. And the next is Chamonix. And the next is Montanfort. Montanfort is the place where the Frankenstein met the monster after 2 months his brother William died. And the next is in Scotland. Scotland is the country when Victor met female monster. And the next is London. London is Frankenstein's best friend's house. And the last is North Pole. North Pole is the place where Walton found thin, weak, sick, and the death of Frankenstein. And the setting times in the 1800th century. And the next is character. Character is the action in a story's plot. They can be people, animals, or whatever the writer chooses. The characters in the Frankenstein's novel are: the first is Victor Frankenstein. He is a main character that's very smart and made a monster. He is also the oldest son in the Frankenstein's family and husband of Elizabeth Lavenza. The next is Monster. Monster is a terrifying new creature created by Frankenstein. And the next is Robert Walton. Robert Walton is a man who traveled to the North Pole and found Frankenstein thin, weak, and sick. And the next is Elizabeth Lavenza. Elizabeth Lavenza is Frankenstein's wife. And the fifth is Henry Clerval. He is a Frankenstein's best friend. And the sixth is Mr. DeLacy. Mr. DeLacy is a farmer who lives in the with his children in the cottage and a forest, and his children named Felix and Agatha. DeLacy cannot perceive the monster words appearance. And the next is Frankenstein father. And the eighth is Frankenstein mother. And the ninth is William. William is Frankenstein's brother. And the 10th is Ernest. Ernest is Frankenstein's brother. And the last is Justin Moritz. Justin Moritz, he is a Martin of William, Frankenstein's brother. And the next is theme. Theme is the central idea or message of the story, often a perception about life or human nature. Stated themes are directly presented in a story. The theme of Frankenstein's novel are: the first is knowledge. Frankenstein went to study at the University of Ingolstadt, so he learned about many things. And then he also conducts experiments almost every day in the laboratory. The next is creature. Creature, because he often did experiments in the laboratory, he was interested in the secrets of life. Why did ours conquer life? Until in the end he created a tall and hideous creature from pieces of a corpse coupled with his complicated formula. And the next theme is family. Victor's family is good family. They like to help poor people, but one by one his family died, especially after the presence of monster. And the last theme is ambition. Victor has strong ambition to learn science and the secrets of life in this world. And in the end, it destroys itself. And the next is point of view. Point of view refers to the relationship of the narrator or storyteller to the story. Frankenstein is told through the first-person point of view because the narrator is a character in the story referred to as I and my. The next is genre. Frankenstein is a gothic novel that employs mystery, secrecy to tell the story of Dr. Frankenstein doomed monster. And the last is the message that we can take in the story. The first is: don't be ambitious with your desires, because too much ambition will endanger yourself. The second is: happiness is created because of love with each other. And the last is: don't accuse before there are proof. And the last is: reach high education but use it as well as possible for useful activities. And the next material will be delivered by Poningsi.
Okay, I want to explain about extrinsic element. There are three elements. The first is about biography of author. Mary Shelley is the author of Frankenstein books. Mary Shelley was born on August 13, 1797 in London. Her father's most famous book was Political Justice, 1793, which is a critical look at society and the ethical treatment of the masses. Godwin's other popular book, Caleb Williams, 1794, examines class distinction and the misuse of power by the ruling aristocracy. Mary Wollstonecraft, her mother, was a leading feminist writer who exposed her views in her famous book and Vindication of the Rights of Women, 1792. They married in 1797 to protect the rights of the forthcoming child. When their daughter Mary was born, William and Mary had only been married for 5 months. 4 weeks after giving birth, Mary Wollstonecraft died and complication. Thus, Mary Shelley never knew her mother. Her father remarried a woman by the name of Mrs. Caermont when the young Mary was 4 years old. And the second is about social elements. In November 1813, Fanny, Mary's half-sister, committed suicide a few weeks later. In December 1813, Shelley's first wife, Harriet, also killed herself. In 1819, the Shelley's left England for Italy to escape mounting debt and to improve Bertie's health. Mary was miserable and disconsolate at 21 and 22 years of age. Based on his struggle and experience began he wrote a book, and the title of the book is Frankenstein. The last is value elements. There are three values. The first, education value. He wanted to discover the secret of life. He studied hard to make his dream fulfilled. His parents decided to send Frankenstein to continue his education at the University of Houston. There he learns about many things. He also conducts experiments almost every day in the laboratory. He wanted to use electricity to help people, and Professor Waltham helped him very much. After 2 years he had discovered many things, and he built a scientific machine that was better than anything in university. And the second is cultural value. Frankenstein was devastated and angry because the people closest to him were dead late. He decided to look for monsters everywhere. During the search, he met a group of the people with a leader named Robert Walton, who traveled to the North Pole. Walton found Frankenstein thin, weak, and sick. Walton helped Frankenstein, also invited him to sail with him. And the last is moral value. In the trip to London, he fell asleep. However, when he woke up, he did not know where there was. He was accused of being a murderer, because before there is murderer were using some small boat with Frankenstein. So he was jailed and tried, even though he not a killer. There are from us. Thanks for your attention. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.